is the 813th Arukh GaShulchan Yomi. Like the sponsor come to share or more of the Arukh GaShulchan Yomi, please come me directly. Very greatly appreciated. They were doing Simon Tov Kuf, Sif Tov Kuf Yud, excuse me, Sif Ches to Sif Yud Dalet. Ches, Kosbel Tov Shulchan Aruch is Sif Sifim. Emerson is the Chardal, but it's not a shul. You can't sift mustard in its sieve. The Shabur says, infers from this, that if you sift it on something else, which is not in a way which is lokadarko, it's mutter. Okay, the Shulchan continues that you can't sweeten it with a metal, with a coal, which is a wooden coal. Mutter, but with a metal coal you can't sweeten it. Akan Shlomo. End quote. The Bora also be Yontif. Bora is also Yontif, even the rice and Rabbanon. Contain David Shevshel, so it's from Arab Yontif. Like anything which else could you do from Arab Yontif. So Mishabura concludes from this that if we weren't able to do it for Arab Yontif, then you're allowed to use even a strainer on Yontif. But he says only you should not be makel except by Shinui. But Kfiyat the Shun continues, says Kfiyat Day she's bar b'sim top tzadikei zer sheitar b'kitni yasarei lo b'vrei gemuri tarnu. We don't allow utter and complete breira. Sign with enough of a kvara. We disallowed using sieves and colanders, but el chik with tamche, but only using your lap or a pot. Like am the gam Shabbos yish matir as terem biyad for such a way even on Shabbos that terem which it's done with the hand. But the second much is but you have to be more lenient. Milkapanim breira gemura, but absolute breira asur gam biyontif. That's also yontif. Aim same schadam isner shalo. That's why you can't strain the mustard in its strainer. Not just mustard. Do what thing called wine. Everything else as well. Then you put a plant which you don't eat is also suitable to eat. So it's not absolute borish. Nevertheless, it's also yontif. Came in the borer derech breiraso kedarko v'snes since you're doing borer in the normal way with the sieve. Test. That which you can't sweeten it with a wooden coal, because you're extinguishing the coal when you're sweetening it. But if it's metal, there's no din of kibui by metal. I guess it's not really extinguishing the metal. It's not really burning in the same way. It's just hot. Even though extinguishing is mutter normally for the purpose of ochal nefesh, like meat placed on hot coals. But Gemara asks there, how come that's mutter to it? Depends whether it's possible to do without extinguishing or not possible to do it. Well, actually, that's not what he says here. Sorry. Rashi says, Efshani means whether you could have done Erev Yontif or not. Rashi says that by meat you couldn't have done Erev Yontif. The Yom HaShivicha it's better on the day. But mustard, with the Erev Yontif, but mustard will not get ruined if you sweeten it from Erev Yontif. So that's why they were not mounted, they're extinguishing for that purpose. The Shua says, and this as well, that if you couldn't have sweetened it from yesterday, it should be mutter. But even in this case, people are machmir not to do it except with the shinui. So in this way of learning the is where the proper way of learning the sugya. Some Rishonim have different versions of the Gemara. Those where the prohibition is not because of mechaber, but rather because it's not shabbat chol nefesh. It's not something, mustard, I guess, is not something that everybody needs. Some people say it's like grinding wheat. But Rashi's version and his interpretation is more simple. I'm sorry, the came to since by metal there is no such thing as extinguishing. So you can put a hot metal skewer into a beverage when you need this, even though it's going to sizzle. It's not considered to be kibui. Now, Bialocha writes that a skewer is a keli, and it would seem that there should be a problem of forging, tziruf. and Siyuf is Doraisa, and therefore you shouldn't be Mako because of Psik Resha. That's a very big machlekes. The Arukh GaShulchan holds there is no Siyuf, but putting the skewer into the beverage. Mistama because once it's been used, it's already got forged as much as going to be forged. But Mishnah does hold that no, the metal can get it forged again, and therefore you can't put a hot skewer into cold liquid. Even though we forbade straining mustard, but in straining wine, dregs from wine, or shechor, or beer, ain't okay. It's not the case. If they're better when they're strained today, if they were strained every Yontif, so you're allowed to strain on Yontif. You come nevertheless, and you can't hang the strainer, which they use, in order to strain the dregs. Because it's a weekday activity. You could have hung it up. Evidently, it's more complex. Just you take your strainer. You could have hung it up before you enter. And once it's hanging in its place, you can put dregs in it to strain them. If you didn't hang it, they let you you employ a ruse, a loophole. Hang it not for the purpose of straining. But remove that you used to hang pomegranates. That's about money. Hanging pomegranates. That's what they used to do in those days. But I don't know. But then you put the dregs in it. Why they allow this ruse? The since it's according to strict law should be permissible, and we should move to the chol. They only said it's a weekly activity, therefore we should refrain. Chaytan said that's why we allowed a ruse. Jose Michel Emesh, Eno Tov Shalayom. That's only yesterday's. Is not as good as today's. The end of fresh, there's no distinction. Also, Game Charidol is forbidden altogether, like Charidol to strain today, just like the mustard. Prima Bura puts in this point, which she's always putting in. Prima God says about Shino, it's mutzar no matter what. But Shadine Sinun, have a Yontif on Shabbos, and other lachos, Yontif of straining, Yontif like Shabbos, you can use boil out, Simon Shinu Test, Iron Shum, when you can check Shabbos. Now, if also Chazal, the Gabin Kvinim Yontif, you're not allowed to make cheese on Yontif Ginosa, making the cheese, curdling, having more binyan. It's like construction. Shami, I think it says lisha. That's like kneading, but the Bali says binyan. It's not just that cheese is no worse if it's made from yesterday. It was made yesterday that tastes better. The Gvina Basioma ain't tamatokokach. Fresh cheese doesn't taste as good as cheese which has at least been aged overnight. Besides that, you normally make it. You normally make cheese to last a long time. But I can see it's like harvesting, which is also because it's done something which is done to last for a long time. The Mishnah says again. So according to this, even if we're able to do it, we're not able to do it for Yontif should be usher, because it's like Ksira, which is also even on Yontif, even if we weren't able to do it. But by Shino, you can be Mako. Okay? Harvesting, we're not going to make it with Shino. Only these things which are obviously perhaps like Ksira, but not actually Ksira. Okay, also last those coming Yontif, you're also not allowed to churn butter in Yontif. It's possible that fresh butter is a little bit better than yesterday's butter. Nevertheless, it's a tremendous tircha. But it seems they make it for many days. It's also even by a non-Jew. Mishnah says somebody can make it with tzor similar to Yontif, but only should make it with tzor gadol. You can scoop off the heavy cream from milk. When you get to the end of the fat, the fatty stuff, you leave a little bit of the fat as zoyer milk for the sour milk. I'm not sure exactly what he means by to the sour milk. I guess he means that the last layer is called sour milk. I don't know exactly. But anyway, we can skim off everything up to the bottom layer of that fat. It's only when you eat the heavy cream that day. And was a Zarakadesh Liskalka, but then it's just so it shouldn't get ruined. Ain't la sos batzmo, Rakade ain't Yehudi, you should not do yourself, do it by a non-Jew. Mishabur brings down for Rabbi Yaakov Emden, the more tziyah, that by also by butter, it's mutter by a non-Jew if you're afraid that the cream is going to get ruined if you don't make it, turn it into butter. Because of you don't. Again, this is a way of curdling. You can't curdle cheese on. Can't curdle milk on yontif. I ain't covered us to shuffle kalim. It doesn't mean not to spill it into vessels. I mean, mainly I'm doing kind of and saying when it'll automatically become solidified over time. And so aim position block. There's no malach on that. Elo kamasav amaras kebats when you put in the enzymes from the intestine of a cow, which then curdles it, rennet, as it's called in English. Mishnah Berurah says that also to put milk in a warm place so that it should curdle. It's usher because of bower, because the solids are being moved from the liquids. Also now I put vinegar into milk because that also is mevarer. It moves the mechal from the solids. No, we just did that. Schweizer kaz. That's when they make Swiss cheese. Hollander kaz and Dutch cheese. That's definitely a malacha. The Issa garments are forbidden. Local Mishmeka was not like somebody who was lenient. You can't. There's a word for it, which is not getting right now. Cutting off the bad leaves. Not shearing. I don't remember nothing right now. Anyway, you can't the prune, but that's what used by a tree. You can't do it with a vegetable, even if it's not in the ground. If you're using those scissors, which you would normally use to cut them from the connection to the ground. No matter what, it looks bad. Because people say you cut them today from their connection to the ground. Talking about like kundas, bachbios, you can fix. I think kundas is artichokes, and akbios is I don't remember what that is. And those are other vegetables. Though it's hard to do. The artichokes are difficult to fix. The cocoa is calculated to whether they're ruined if you don't fix them if you fix them from yesterday. It's known allowed to salt many pieces of radish. Because the Shabbos is forbidden because it's like ma'abed, it's like working them, so to speak. Some people not to make so many. Even though it's certainly should be minute to get ruined in from yesterday. Since you can do little by little, shouldn't salt many at one time. The Shebur says, should be cautious for this. Those are concerned that you should not leave it for a long time in salt. You just dip it in salt. Eat immediately, which came Naga Mariel. That was the Mariel's custom. Name is that time Isser. Shulchan says, as I said, why that's necessarily the case. If you're going to get more hanoah, if it's more salty, so then you'll have to do that. But Mariel is making himself. He didn't like radishes, which were kept in salt for too long. Okay, you give him a dash in the shabi shutro tzabi yativ kap shlo tzorch. You know last case stuff even shlo tzorch yativ. But some seem to tzadikei b'shem Rambam. But lo gadru lanu esaderech. They did not curtail our pathways when it came to otzah. Mikom kolom b'chachamim shlo yisam masos. It's going to say you should not bear masos girls heavy burdens. Yantiv mishum u'nechol because it's a weekday activity. Tzorch l'shanos you have to make a shinoi. Ketzah. How so? Maybe kadiyai makal magam. Sorry means barrels of wine from place to place. Will be in beside a kupa. Shouldn't bring him in a large basket or container. Says toga arba chamishakanim, which is going to put 4 or 5 jugs. Kedel shows like the weekday. Aliyavim aktefo, but bring in a shoulder, like can be on the front of, or put them in your hands in front of you. Echad oshnayim 1 or 2. That was a muchashul tzah yodav. In this way, it's clear it was brought for birds yodav. For lo avi uvdin chol, it's not considered. Doesn't take on the form of a weekday activity. Mishnah Berurah says from the Vayis Kodesh, the Rashba, it sounds like even he wants to put only 2 into the basket, it's also usher, because using the basket altogether is considered to be uvda b'chol. Gets to put 1 in the basket to be okay, because that's not derech. But when we put 7 in the basket, even 2, it looks like uvda b'chol. Anyway, it says Oshim said Dafka Shem Licham B'Makam the specific taking them from place to place. The Avshim Milsa is a public spectacle. So therefore, Even you're going to you have to walk back and forth many more times. We can't do anything about this. Avok shenosim is always taking them from corner to corner, or even from house to house. But also in that courtyard, tribe to be made all together. But the contrary, it's better to take a lot at one time in order to diminish, not the times to go back and forth. The to walk more times is more of an effort, which is forbidden on Yom Tov, as much as we can prevent it. Than the effort involved in carrying some heavier load. So to somebody who's transporting straw. We shouldn't put the container behind his shoulder. That's a weekday way of doing it. A night will be all taken in his hands. So don't bring wood. Not with a rope, nor with a container, nor in a canvas. But maybe in pockets, bring it in a handkerchief, in your lap, in your hands. Says only a place where people are going to watch you. But if it's in your kater, it's better to walk less, as we wrote. Bishar Tzion leaves that as it's our here. Yudav, burdens you should only carry on a rod, a stick. You saw some gabo bear them like a knapsack on your back. Those you normally bear in your back. You saw on your shoulder. Those you should normally put on your shoulder. Saw some in front of you, carry with hands in front of him. Or you force them beggar, spread upon them a garment, as long as you won't come to be sochet. Such as if there's water, you should not spread the garment over them. Anything else which could change the way of bearing it is good for Yontif. Shaltin says that, which Rav says that a garment which is made to spread over the load, that we're not concerned that it's going to come to skita. I don't know. Maybe how that's relevant to us, if it's relevant to us. And besides, perhaps it's not enough of a shinoi if it's normally used that way. Anything else you can change in carrying load is good, says Arukh GaShulchan. Principle is carrying a burden, you have to change a little bit than what you do weekday. It's not possible, such as we have a lot of guests. So you have to quickly make preparations. As do a weekday. The aim is to assume Isser. There's no intrinsic prohibition of that. The Mishnah says, even if those guests are from that same city, so it's not really technically a chnos sarkim, because they have where to eat. Nevertheless, you can be mekel. The Mishnah says also you can't change because of some other reasons, such as we don't have a garment to cover it up. It's also okay. But or if a person carries the load, have a gabe behema, but to put the load on top of an animal. Also the garment that's completely forbidden. Put down load. Even though we said there's no prohibition on animal carrying a burden on Yontif, maybe intrinsically there's no problem, but it's uvda l'chol. So we did too. Besides, maybe you're going to direct it. Is there also and that's forbidden. A burden of an animal even for a man's purpose is also another altogether. Besides the prohibition of using animals in general.